right, I bring this meeting of the Hamilton City School Board of Education to order. Mr. Frazier, will you call the roll?
Mrs. Baker?
Here.
Mr. Davidson? Here. Mr. Isgro?
Here.
Mrs. Matthews?
Here.
Mr. Sprague?
Okay, I believe on work session agenda, we have Andrea, Ms. Blevins, here to talk about student growth data. So.
There we go. Well, thank you for letting me do this. We're very excited to share with you a few different data pieces tonight. We will continue to update the board throughout the year on data. Some of this that we're going to share tonight is preliminary. The official school report card should be coming out sometime in the fall. So a lot of this data you'll see is all kind of subject to a little bit of change, but we're very excited to share this with you tonight. Three pieces of data that we're going to look at is first our NWEA MAP data that we use. That's, as you know, our internal measure that we give 3 times a year. It measures both growth and achievement of our kids in grades K through 9. So you'll get to see that data tonight. I'll also give you again those preliminary state, our Ohio State test results. I'm not going to go a lot into depth on those tonight just because that should be coming out on the report card here, I would say in the next month probably. We're already starting to see some of the first drafts of the school report card coming in. And then the last thing I want to talk about what our state rating is based on the data that we've seen so far. That's something to celebrate. So I'm excited to be here to talk with you about data tonight. Sometimes it's numbers, but I promise I'm not going to go too deep into it. I'm going to give you just enough so you know the direction that we're going and what we're doing. I say to the teachers and the principals all the time that data is often turned into an ugly 4-letter word. We use it as a weapon instead of as a tool. And so our big mission since I came here, and I know even before that under Mr. Holbrook, was how do we use data to drive what we do? It's not a judgment, it's a starting place so we know where to go with it. So I want to take you on a little bit of a walk. This was in the spring of 2021. This is our growth data when it comes to MAP. I'm going to walk this way just a little bit, Steve, so hopefully this doesn't mess with you. If you look where can you guys hear me okay? If you guys look where the diamonds are, that's expected growth, okay? That is 1 year's worth of growth that NWEA sets that a grade level should make. Notice the diamond's higher because the zone of possible growth in kindergarten, their little sponges, is much bigger. It goes down as you get older. If our blue bar is touching that line, it means that we made growth, just 1 year around the track. If you think we're running, if we hit that bar, it just means we made 1 year. Obviously, if we're below the bar, we did not. If we're above it, then we exceeded what our expected growth is. Very comparable to what value added is, okay, on the state report card. And that's why we like this tool so much. So this was 2021. You can notice that about half of our grade levels were performing below expectation. That's the first year coming back right after COVID, our hybrid schedules, our masks, getting back into the routines, picking up the learning loss. Down here is where we have kind of the analytics, and there's the 2 points I want to point out on here. The bar over on the right is our percentage of students who met their growth. So you're looking at most of these numbers, and I apologize, they're small, are in the 40s and 50s. Okay? That's the actual students within our classrooms that met their individualized growth goal. So Mr. Isgro has a goal that he's supposed to hit to move 1 year around the track. Mr. Sprague has one. They're not the same. They're individualized based on where you start. Then the middle blue bar is what is our achievement. If we line up 100% of school districts that take the MAP assessment, where do we line up? The closer to 100, the more advanced, or the front of the line we are. The closer to obviously 0, the further back we are in achievement. So you can see that in 2021, we were roughly, you can look at our kindergartners, we're in the 53rd percentile, all the way down to our 9th graders in math, we're at the 3rd percentile. I want to fast forward to where we ended last year, because it's pretty dramatic in 2 years' time where we've gone. If you look here, you can see in math now, every single grade level is at minimum making expected growth. You can see many of our grade levels, especially our primary, are well exceeding the growth. Why is this so important? If we can get kids further around the track, we're closing gaps. The earlier we close those gaps, the more of our kids that will make it to graduation, that are going to be more successful in middle school, high school, and beyond. So a lot of this comes from why our initiative with our ESSA recovery plan was co-teaching, was building that intervention, because we wanted to see that to slingshot progress moving forward. So that's where we're sitting right now. Your eye down below to what it did to both our growth and our achievement. Look at our numbers now. 77, 77, 71, 60, 72% of our students are meeting their personal growth goals. So not only are we moving as an organization, we're individualizing instruction to make sure that every kid's getting what they want and need, not just the mass. In addition, by meeting that growth, look at our achievement. It shot up. If you look at third grade in math, or in ninth grade in math, you'll see that that is still at 3%. One thing I do want to mention, at K-8, every student takes that MAP assessment. When we get to ninth, only certain remedial students take it. Okay, so I always say those apples and oranges are a little different when you start comparing 8th and 9th grade. But you can look at 81% of our kindergarten, we ended the year last year at the 81st percentile with kindergartners. That puts us that many miles ahead on the track. In 2021, we were at the 53rd percentile. I say to teachers and principals all the time, line jumping is a sport for us. Not at Kings Island, but here it is a sport. Because as the more that we can grow, the more we are accelerating our achievement. So this is the math side. I won't go in as much depth as we look at reading, but this is the same. So here's where we were in reading in 2021. Again, down below, I'm just going to draw your eye to both the growth, which you'll see are in the 40s and low 50s, as well as our achievement. 50s all the way down to, we've got some numbers in there, third grade was at the 25th percentile, to here's where we are now. Oh, sorry. Again, take a look at our percentage of students who are now meeting growth, as well as what it's doing to our achievement. This is important, but this is due to growth. We're meeting kids where they are, figuring out what they need, and then helping them accelerate. That's really important to us as a district, and it's really paid off. So we celebrate these numbers, but this is the masses. We've got to go further of looking at individual students. One of our big messages is constant growth equals gains in achievement. Achievement takes a few years. The growth, we have to constantly close the gap on the track in order to see those achievement gains. So I put this chart together for you. I actually, just for kicks, did add where we were in 1920 prior to shutting down in COVID. So that's why you see that asterisk 20. You can see this is our percentage of our students who met growth. Lots of red. You can see 21 when we came back was a really rough year for reading. I will tell you, I've talked with a lot of other districts. Reading had a more significant impact, was negatively impacted by COVID than math. How do you teach a kindergartner how to hold a pencil? How do you teach them how to read and sound out words and chunk them? Math was a little more concrete, so we did not experience as much of a loss. But you can see we've started to rebound that. When you look at those yellow numbers, I don't want you to go, oh man, it's not growing. They're pretty drastic when you start looking at those ranges of where we've gone. In some grade levels, we've gone from anywhere from 49% to now 66% of students as a whole are meeting their growth goal. On the math side, you can see the same thing. We've gone from the red in the 40s, 30s and 40s of students. I will tell you, when I first got here, math was an afterthought in primary. You saw a lot of playing, but you did not see kids doing arithmetic, and we've really changed that with our programming. You can now see we have students where 77%, 80% of students right now are going to hit their growth goal this year. Here's where this starts to help us on achievement. This chart, same group of kids. As you start looking at the green, you'll see starting to stair step down. When we get multiple years of that green growth, we start to see the achievement. So our kindergartners ended the year last year at the 81st percentile. I mentioned that before. Our first graders are now at the 69th. Our second graders are at the 54th. That's building a stronger foundation that's going to pay year after year. We keep saying, and I can't wait to see next year's data with our third grade this year to see where we're going with that. On the literacy side, you'll see it starting to build. As you know, Governor DeWine came out and outlawed balanced literacy. It's the #1 program across the state of Ohio. He has really challenged us to get back to phonics instruction. Something I'm very proud of with our team and our teachers. We've always been a step ahead of that. We implemented phonics-based in a structured literacy program starting last year. That's where we adopted our really great reading. So you're starting to see some of that growth there. If you look at our kindergartners across, we always talk about how low our kindergartners come in. They don't. Our challenge is how do we meet them where they are and keep them growing on the track or accelerate where they are so that we can be successful all the way down. It's one of our personal missions to get that green all the way across that chart in every grade level because every child deserves that, both on the achievement and more importantly, the growth. It's really important. One of the ways that we're doing that, and I'm not going to go too much into these, I did down in the notes on these slides. If you look down in them, I gave you for every building. If you ever want to break in, if you're a data junkie, you can look at that stuff. But we started looking at what were 3-year trends. What was the growth? And what was the achievement? You can see as the years are going on in the grades, you're seeing more and more green travel across our charts here. Here's the same in literacy. 3-year growth comparison by building, by grade. And then there's our reading comparison for achievement. So every time we're getting that green in growth year after year, you're seeing a correlation to the achievement. If we can get growth, we can get achievement. One of the things that we started doing this year with our teachers are we have to go even further. We've got to start looking by classrooms. We are blessed in this district by having instructional coaches in our building that specialize in both literacy and math. We can target where do we need the help. If you look at our primary math scores, the future is bright. The future is bright across our classrooms. We started analyzing why are some buildings, every single class in that grade level getting the growth, and what we found is it's collaboration. It's common lesson planning. It's really, truly being in step with each other. They're all of our kids, not just my classroom of my kids, and I'm doing this here in isolation. Teaching can be very isolating. So one of our big focuses this year is how do we get those doors open to share best practices with each other across all of our rooms. This is our middle schools. Same process because this is going all the way up, K-8. So I share those. You will see one of the things that we noticed is we're sending a better prepared student from elementary to middle school. Middle schools had to revamp what they're doing now to address that. Whereas before they were really filling a lot of gaps and teaching below grade level, they're able to now run with kids getting a 7th grader at a 7th grade level. I'll tell you, as a former language arts teacher, I'd be jumping up and down. I was an 8th grade language arts teacher for many years. I would get kids in my 8th grade class that didn't know how to read. And it was, how are you going to get them to pass the test? I just want them to know what their sight words are. And so what's nice is as we build the foundation, it strengthens us. And so that's really been our approach, and it's exciting to start seeing that trickle up and down. The nice thing that MAP does too, people say, why MAP? We used to use iReady in the district. We've used STAR in the district. We've used quite a few different programs. Here in my 5th year, I had a teacher the other day say to me, you know, Andrea, when we first went to MAP, I didn't get it. Aren't they all the same? One of the reasons that I love MAP is because it gives you a very strong correlation. It will tell you based on how the kids are doing on MAP, how they'll perform on the OST. So if you're looking right there, the top bar across is what MAP said we would do. There's how we actually did in math. So it's almost spot on. It gives our teachers a tool that allows them to really know that what they're doing is making a difference. They can intervene. That's the math, and there's the reading. Someone said to me, oh my gosh, we did better than what MAP said, and was a little bit annoyed. And I said, I'd want it that way. I don't want MAP to say we're there and we're celebrating and we take our foot off the gas. I like it that way. I do believe there's a little difference in the correlation on reading. It's a little further off, and I think that accounts for the writing portion on OST. MAP is all multiple choice, fill in the blank answers, whereas your OST tests allow the kids to write essays and compile their thoughts, which just benefits our kids. Any questions on that piece right now? Okay.
Mrs. Blevins,
Yes.
you did point out one thing that I was looking at. Fine, you already talked about it. Second grade level, 22, it's going up each year. So that shows that, it's just not a one-time thing.
This one right here?
They are, yes,
Mhm.
they are retaining and they are growing.
Well, in that 21 group, those are our kids that entered our schools after COVID.
Yes, ma'am.
We talk about who was most affected, right? We talk about who's the group that we have to watch. It's that bubble that's going to come through. We're closing that gap. And I'm proud of that. And I'll tell you, that's not us sitting in this office. That's our teachers in our building. That's our instructional coaches helping them. That's our principals. We talk all the time that it's our goal to make sure our arrows are all going the same direction. I'm going to talk about what that looks like at the very end of this. But you're right, Mr. Isgro. You see that stair step. You see it's not a one and done. Our goal is to have that year after year after year because a kid deserves good instruction in every single classroom. Mr. Holbrook always challenges our principals. When we're talking about teachers in classrooms, are they good enough to put your own kid in them? I measure our instruction that way. Is it good enough that my own 6th and 8th grader would be challenged and grow in that classroom? And I say all the time, I'm proud of the work here. Sometimes I take it home and do some of it with them at home because it's good stuff. It's developing sound instruction for kids and teachers alike.
So,
Yeah.
and you touched on it before, but you said, yes. So you touched on it before. You said you talked about the ESSA dollars that we received. So would it be? I guess it would be safe to say that that investment of ESSA dollars that we received helped aid into this being able to see this success and see this growth and consistency. So being that was a good investment in dollars, with wrapping that around our students to give them what they need. Because I think we had co-teaching in what grade was it?
K through 2 blanketed, and then half of our 3rd grade. So all of our reading, language arts classes. And that's I'm glad you bring that point up because we did invest in that.
Yeah.
And that wasn't something that's going to pay off in 1 year.
Right.
That's something that's going to pay off in 12 years. I've had some teachers say, hey, we're starting to see that we're, walking back co-teaching. It served its purpose of helping to accelerate us. The other nice thing, it's allow us to keep very qualified teachers who were trained with our programs in our classrooms instead of bringing someone new in. Right. And so, I'll hear from a lot of people, are you really sad to see co-teaching go? I am sad to see it downsize. We still have it in a lot of buildings in some capacity, but it did what we set out to do. I remember standing here, those years when we presented this plan to you, and that was the goal. How do we accelerate and remediate the gap that COVID created? And I do think we are very much on that track. There's always work to be done. We'll never stop working at it. But this data affirms the decision that this Board of Education did. We did something that no one else around us did.
Right.
We put our money into our people, and our people put their time into our kids, and it's paying off.
And I think it's important to understand that the entire intent of ESSA dollars was to remediate and help kids that fell behind during COVID. And we didn't go out and buy canned programs because we know the best teacher of kids are teachers. And so breaking those classrooms into smaller groups, being able to take those small groups and individualize instruction was a strategy that may have been a little creative, but we're seeing the benefits of that at this point.
Now, I have one more question, and you probably know, we all probably know the answer, but are you going to, now that there's no more co-teaching, if there's going to be a detriment to only having that one in there?
We are, and that's why we're stair-stepping it. We didn't just remove it. So as we have downsized it, the first year we took it away from 3rd grade. We still provided intervention support, especially for students that still needed it. And I work about every day on staffing and what that looks like, and already starting to draft what boards look like. So we didn't just pull it away because we know that was instrumental. The second year we started looking at second grade. How do we pull that? Now we're starting to look at that at first grade, kindergarten, because we want it to be that our teachers are now sustained. What I've found is in classrooms and in buildings that no longer have co-teaching at that grade, they're still leveraging each other because now they're the teacher across the hallway. It's how can I take your 5 lowest kids and I'll trade you for my 5 for reading today because this group makes sense. So I'm hoping that a lot of the great strategies that we have implemented during COVID stay.
And Mr. Isgrove, if I can add on that, we also in buildings still have title support that supports those students in addition to what we've done. So are we watching that? We are. But you know, the biggest intent for us was to close that gap where that kids lost over that period of time. And so that cohort, second, third, fourth grade right now, those are our biggest concerns right now with regard to elementary students. We know if students can't read by the time they leave elementary, they're going to be very challenged at the middle and high schools. We know that.
I just want to go back and say, you know, you should be proud. It still always amazes me how strategic this administrative group is, and really looking at it and using those ESSER dollars for what they really were intended. And I'd put us up against any other district when it comes to this. So,
Well, and that's why I'm so excited. We were hoping, we were even checking today to see if the state report card, I was hoping to be able to, but we're already seeing the impact of that. And that's going to continue to pay year after year. So you have to think those K and 1 students, they're not going to take a state third grade. Well, them being further ahead is going to help us. Here's our challenge. We have to keep them further ahead.
right.
We can't let it, regress back to where we were.
And I'll say this for the board at that time, we stepped out of the way. We got out of your way and said, you guys are the instructors, you're the experts on it, and and we had the extra money and we did the right thing.
But we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys supporting that. I know some other districts that wanted to do something similar, heard what we were doing, and they said, no, that's wasteful spending.
Right.
How are you ever going to step that back? And there's always a way. You always put what's the best decision for the kids and figure out a path. And so we're still figuring out that path. Doesn't mean it's always an easy path, but it's important for our kids, and we're starting to see that. I'm going to transition into OST data, our Ohio State tests. I'm not going to go, like I said, a lot in depth tonight because we'll be getting the report card with they call it scrub data once they take out the students who don't count for us. This is our raw data. So this is all the kids that took the test in Hamilton in May. This is a chart that Mike always shows. This is kind of trend data every year. So you can follow ways. Cohorts, or you can follow how the grade level does across. I know it's tiny. I know you have it there on your screen. But if you look in math, in almost every single grade level, we are performing better on the OST than we were pre-COVID, multiple years pre-COVID. And so that goes to really quality programming. We talk all the time, we have to put a quality product in front of our teachers. And so our instruction team did a nice job of adopting Engage New York. They call it ZERN in some areas. That's been implemented in all of our buildings K-5 and has made a massive impact in getting primary foundational mathematics skills to our kids. And you can start seeing that. The second line that you look there is the state average. So one of the things we always look at is how is Hamilton performing in relation to the rest of the state? If we're going up, but the state is going up, then that just might have been that year the test was a little bit easier or the content that was covered. If you look at the green, that means not only are we growing, we're also beating the state average above that. So these are great numbers to see. Again, these are preliminary, so I don't want to celebrate too much, but I am excited at the direction we're going. This is the math one, and then here's literacy. You'll see third grade. Those are our kids that were that last group that got shut down in their kindergarten year. We're a little off of the mark there, but you'll see that we're making gains. We have also completely our literacy instruction. We've shifted from balanced literacy to structured literacy. We started a phonics program last year. There's in grades 3 through 8, we talked earlier last year with you guys about a shift. Engage New York has a sister company that does the language arts side of things. And so we're piloting that in our buildings this year at 3 through 5, and we're implementing it 6 through 8. So that's kind of our OST data. The last piece here, all of this matters. Why does it matter? Well, it matters in a lot of ways. One, the state comes out with report cards and measures us, right? They put them on the front page of the paper. We also get a lot of designations from the state. Many educators know the term No Child Left Behind. Many people in the public know No Child Left Behind. That was brought in during President Bush's time. We know that he signed right here in Hamilton. That act died a long time ago. When President Obama was in office, he coined it to be the Every Student Succeeds Act. It replaced No Child Left Behind. What it made was every state had to come up with a rating system for their school districts. And based on what rating system, they would get different levels of support or restrictions they must do, okay? Basically, Ohio had to come up with a way of ranking us based on our data. 2 areas that they had to rank was districts and buildings. And you can see there are 4 different areas, everything from academic distress to independent, which is the least level of intervention from the state. And then it also put each of our buildings from priority, which was the highest need schools, to warning for the federal government, and then Ohio added watch, okay? This is also what goes into what helps to create the ed choice lists. And we've talked about choice and that implication both for our school district and surrounding areas. So Ohio put in this system, and in 2018, we were an intensive district. So second highest. A lot of that was due to, we had an F in gap closing for 2 years in a row. So we had the lowest rating you could have. That's what got us into that. We had no schools that were considered priority buildings at that time. But all of these buildings were in what they called focus category. So every single one of these buildings were performing in the lowest 20% in the subgroups listed. So anywhere you see a Y, we were performing in the lowest 20% of the state. With that came all kinds of interventions. With that came all kinds of things that we as a district, we were a district that was being watched by the state because we were underperforming where we should have been. We did have 2 schools that were also in watch, which was Fairwood and Highland. This past summer, the Ohio State came out with a whole new system. All they did was change the names of them. They're the exact same thing, but they decided to get complicated and change the names on us. They took priority, focus, and warning to way more complicated words, which is TSI and ATSI. It means the same thing. You can see here the categories, but I want to get to the fun stuff. We received our ratings, and this is where we stand today. We're an independent district. We no longer are an intensive district. We do not have intervention from the state, and that's due to our achievement, our gains, our subgroup growths, everything. We do have a school that's in CSI, and that's the Miami school. That's our alternative credit recovery high school. Everyone said, well, yeah, we knew that was going to be in there for the graduation rate. We're working for that exact reason. This is the one that I get really excited on. We have not one school in focus anymore. Not one building. Every single building is out. We celebrated this with our administrators because that's a labor of love. That's every staff focused on every student growing. This will continue to be analyzed every year, so we are competing against ourselves to constantly stay out the bottom, but I like that. I'm not about being stagnant. How do we keep growing? How do we keep improving every day? The last thing that we have is ATSI, virtual learning. That's gone. It's always based off previous data. So we celebrated. We had a lot of fun. We celebrated, but one of my big things that I talked about with our administrators, I want us to celebrate, but we've got to keep our eyes on the future. We can't celebrate too long and think the job's done because we've just started on the journey. We've just started down the road. And so as we look to this year.
And Andrew, if I could interrupt
sorry.
just 1 second. The letter that you have in front of you is what I received from the state, basically we have every school that has exited this. I can't tell you how unique that is. That's nearly unprecedented that that happens, especially giving a district our size with everything that we had from 2015 on. You know, this is a huge accomplishment. And you know, we have people reaching out saying, what are you doing? Is that data right? How did you do this? And I mean, that's just a compliment to every single employee, every single board member, every single administrator over the past 6, 7, 8 years, because it takes that long to really move a district of this size to get to that point. And I want to really stress that's a big deal. That's not a nice job and move on type of deal.
To that point, and I agree, I mean, we really need to celebrate it. Is there any way that we can have the Journal do a story on that? I think it would be very interesting to share this with our community, because we don't want to keep this secret.
No.
We want to share that with the
And that's one of
community.
the reasons we wanted to wait until the data was final.
Right.
We also wanted to present it
Right,
in
right.
a work session.
Right.
And I think Mr. Pittman from the Journal News may be watching tonight. So
Oh, we hope so,
Yes.
yeah,
He sends it to the newspapers.
Yeah.
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 But, that's the thing I think we forget. We're working every day, and we've got to celebrate these small wins along the way, because they're not small. Every number that moves by one takes a year's worth of hard work from every adult in our school, from every student. That's our community supporting us. It's so important, and we've got this momentum going, but it doesn't just happen by a flick of the finger. It really is everyone pointing in the same direction, believing in what we're doing and being here for our kids. And this is an amazing place because we have amazing people who are here for kids. So I just wanted to put
Mrs.
here.
Blevins,
Go ahead.
may
I'm
I
sorry.
interrupt Real
Yeah.
fast. Number one is that I've been here for many years, and seeing what you're doing now, elixir, there's no magic pixie dust to do this. Congratulations on that. We've had great people in the past continue to try to move our kids forward, and what you're doing and your team and our teachers and administrators, what they're doing now to do this, to move them that far, is monumental. Congratulations.
Thank you.
My questions, and I'll pat you on the back later, but anyway, my question is, when we were in that, whatever that category was, I'm sorry, I didn't catch it.
Focus.
Focus category, were we getting state assistance on that? Or I know that they were visiting.
Yeah, so they had a state support team that actually comes from one of our local ESCs, and they are kind of improvement coaches that are sent to coach you up on everything from how are teachers looking at data, how are administrators running BLT meetings or staff meetings so that they're highly effective and focused on what we need to be doing. We no longer need that service, which is a fun and scary thing. I had a principal call
Well,
me.
I guess that's where my question was going. If you wanted that support, or is that something that you say, okay, I'm okay, we're flying fine right now?
We're doing
taking
well
the
right
training
now.
wheels off.
Yeah,
Maybe
we're
that's-
taking the training wheels off. We have amazing networks of people. So our instruction team still works with that organization to make sure we're on all the updates and the best practices. And, I've got a lot of people that are very passionate about what they do on our team that stay ahead of the curve. It's what are we doing with this? I hear, like Mike said, all of the other districts, I do have a lot of districts calling and saying, what are you doing? That state support team reached out and said, what's going on in Hamilton? How do we keep an eye? Someone stopped our executive director of instruction and said, I just need you to tell you how proud I am of your team.
That's neat.
Hamilton had a stain for a while of we couldn't get out of this category. And we have the skill and the ability in this district with our kids, our staff, our community. And I'm just excited we can move that needle. The work's not done.
And the amazing thing is that, again, so proud of this district is how we maneuvered through COVID. Mr. Sprague obviously was there at the helm at that time and coming through, and we just stayed focused. You stayed focused, and I'm so proud of what you all have accomplished. Great job. Great job.
Well, just know some of the things that are coming this year. We went over this. We're not done growing students. We're not saying, yes, good job, you're done. We're going to keep pushing. That's important. I'd want that for my kids, so every kid in Hamilton deserves that. Some of our big things, I mentioned these before that we're doing. We're going to continue to ensure that we're using high quality resources in our classrooms. You know, our classrooms, we allow for teacher autonomy. We're not asking for robots, but we do want to make sure that no matter which teacher you get, you're getting an equitable experience and quality instruction no matter what room you're in. And so that's important to our team, is to make sure we're providing a good product for them. We are, like I mentioned, it's called EL curriculum. It's the expeditionary learning. I wish it had a different name. It's the language arts curriculum that we're doing at 3-8. I was in a classroom the other day and the teacher was handing out the first novel of the year. And the kids opened it and they're smelling it and all this stuff. And the teacher goes, "Don't you love the smell of a new book?" And a first grader goes, "I've never smelled a new book before." That's the magic that happens in our classroom. So I can't thank you enough. You guys approved us to go this direction earlier this year. We are implementing our MTSS process, which allows us to differentiate our instruction based on individual kids. We're individual adults. One size does not fit all in our classrooms. I know when Mr. Zeri was here, he talked about the high school is to serve students, not the other way around. And so we have all kinds of pathways. How do we do that at the elementary? How do we do that at the middle school? So that's really what we've been implementing with our MTSS process. We're increasing the differentiated growth because now that we've gotten the growth, we want to start closing gaps. It's not okay for just one year of growth for all kids. So for students that are on track, 1 year is fine. If you're with the pack, you're good. For students that are below, we want to make sure we're giving them 1.5 years or more growth, because that's going to close that gap and accelerate us forward. So that's kind of our game plan. That's what I have for you guys tonight. Do you have any questions? I tried to hurry. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I just want to tag on what Mag said about, you had the programs, we said, go with it, we'll stay out of your way. I think that's important. There's no need for anybody to get in anybody's way if you're showing us these statistics and they're working. Again, hand you the ball, run with it, score. And everybody seems to be doing that. So congratulations to you and all your teams and all the teachers and everybody that's been involved in this.
Absolutely, same. Like I said again, congratulations. This is a huge task that you guys have taken on and continuing to run with it. So we definitely appreciate the diligence and the consistency. That's what it is, consistency, steady chipping away at it, being intentional about how we use dollars, resources with teachers, staff and team and the coaches and stuff that we have in the building. So with all that coming together, we're able to see this kind of movement and continuing to see that movement. So again, in the words of the late, great Kobe Bryant, job's not done.
Amen. Amen. Well, thank you guys.
Thank you, Andrea. Okay, after that great news, I need a motion to adjourn for.
We have
Oops,
several
wait a
other
minute.
items.
Sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yep,
It's still me, Mag. I'm a little needy tonight with time. The second item we wanted to talk about, we talked about tonight the change from balanced literacy to structured literacy. Well, for many years, our district was buying the resources that were needed for balanced literacy instruction. Spent a amount of money on those items. Now Governor DeWine has come out. We had already started the shift and he made it a lot easier for us. But those items are now obsolete. And so in the next month or two, I'm going to be presenting a resolution to you guys to try to either sell those items or to donate them that are no longer proven effective. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of a heads up that will probably be coming. I'm working obviously with our legal representation to make sure we do that in a way. One, I want to be a good steward of money. A lot of taxpayer and grant monies were used to pay for those resources. We did the best we could do with the information we had at the time. And now that we have better information, we have to make better decisions. And we want those resources to part in a way that's being a good steward in the district. So just know that in the next month or so, I'll be bringing you a proposal for what that can look like. But it really is looking at all of those balanced literacy materials that no longer are being used as part of our curriculum.
any questions? Okay, thank you. Now?
We have one more item.
Have that.
We wanted to just coordinate the,
The wrong one, sorry.
we wanted to coordinate the trip that we're going
That's
to be
right.
taking next week. We will be posting a special meeting, request out on our website and that for our trip next Wednesday up to Columbus.
Correct. Yeah,
Crawford
we're
Loin. And
gonna-
Jeremy, I'll let you take over
Yeah,
on
we're
this.
going to go look at the Bridge Park development up in Dublin, and just take a look around and see what that looks like. That is a development from the developer Crawford Hoying, which is going to be going down on the Cohen site. So we're going to go up there. We'll have an agenda for you here shortly. But we are going to have to post a special meeting because all of us are going. And we're working with our attorney on that, and we'll get that posted. But we'll have, formal agenda here shortly, and we'll get together and kind of hash through that, so.
Okay, now that I'm looking at the right agenda.
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Steve. I've been waiting for it now. Thank you, Mr. Sprague. Mr. Frazier?
Mrs. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Davidson? Yes. Mr. Isgro?
Yes.
Mrs. Matthews?
Yes.
Mr. Sprague?